Welcome back to the PricePlow podcast. Today we have a very cool newcomer to the podcast, Dom Iacovone. I hope I'm saying that right.
Good.
Cool. Dom, thanks so much for joining. You've had a really exciting last year was your first year with Raw, and then Revive the year before that was about, I think it wasn't the full of 2019.
So we'll be 2 years old the end of June. Like the first week of July is like 2 years old.
Awesome. So you've had like a breakout 2 years. Like it seems like you guys are growing like an insane rate.
Yep.
And we had a phone call earlier this year. We sat down and you came. I think you're exactly what it was. We're coming out fucking swinging in 2021.
Oh, yeah.
And it was funny going to the phone call. Like I just wanted to check up with you guys, see how things were going. But you had so much that you brought in that I was like, I want to get you on record. I want to talk about this.
For sure.
So excited to have you on today. We're going to talk about a lot of different stuff, like specifically the blood testing that you guys are now offering to people, which is like, I don't think anyone else has ever offered this in supplementation.
I mean, it's definitely something that I don't think would be feasible if I didn't have, obviously, my other business. But when we came out with Revive, Matt and myself, one of the things that we really wanted to do is we didn't want to be another marketing company that was just pushing a very similar product as everybody else. It was more of a culture, a legacy, something that was going to be different than everything else that's going on. And as well as I do, we came out with the products that we had, and people were like, oh, it's not going to work. No one's going to give a shit about this stuff. Health isn't important. And then, people started to realize like, whoa, people actually are starting to care about this and it's actually working. And then obviously other brands started to kind of do the same thing. And I think it's great. I think that we're spreading awareness of, all the different fucking disasters in our industry are something that needs to be heard. It needs to be known. And the more people who are coming out with these products, I think is better, because obviously it means that there's more awareness towards that type of a campaign. But that wasn't our end goal. Our end goal was never to just start and make these products and, put on the bottle formulated by, whatever MD. It's not a sales pitch for me. This isn't a sales pitch for me. This is like what I truly believe in. So how can we make it better? How can we elevate it? That's kind of how we took bergamot and we turned it into lipid, and we took Tudka, we turned it into liver. Like we're always going to be innovative. We're always going to come out and do the best we can for our people. And this year I realized that one of the things that we could do and that, I have the ability to bring to the table is free blood work for people who have insurance, and extremely heavily discounted rates for people who don't. And it's just the next step in, not only, proving the model, proving our products, but just educating the people. I really could care less if people buy our products or buy, Project AD or whatever. If there's a way that they can test their blood for free and be able to, monitor themselves and stay healthy, that's really, for me, what it's all about.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's amazing. And I think we mentioned the naysayers that there were a lot of last year that questioned the possibility of making, health sexy, or at least bringing it to the forefront. And my straight up answer for that always was that they just didn't understand who you were. Because I think it's easy. I mean, there's a bald tattooed guy in Florida that both owns hormone clinics and is selling you supplements. I think we've seen this before, right? The whole hormone clinic thing is kind of overdone, and it usually looks like you're just looking for a profit. But if they don't know Dom and Matt, I don't think they quite grasp the purpose of what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I have to battle the same way I battle supplement companies every day. I'm battling shitty hormone replacement companies all over the country. We're one of the only fully franchised medical facilities, I think, in the world. And when I say that, it's not spoken lightly, because we're not an office building in Florida that has, a bunch of sales guys in it and no doctor. Every one of my locations has an MD, a nurse practitioner, a full-time nurse. I mean, we're heavily staffed, and we do things way above bar when it comes to legality, and I pay a hefty price for that. But I know long-term that it's the most valuable thing I could do for the business, because it adds validity, and I took the same principles of building Revive to Revive MD, so, we don't make, I wouldn't say that, my company is all hormones. We do a ton of things. We do non-surgical facelifts. We do aesthetics. We do stem cell therapy, IV vitamin therapy, medical weight loss, HRT, all of those things are all, we have physical therapists, we have chiropractors. It's a full medical facility. So we're not, like a 600 square foot office building. And it costed a fortune to do this the right way. And I knew that I was going to do the same thing when I started Revive MD. I wanted to come out and I wanted to be different. I told Matt from the beginning, like, if we're doing anything, I have no desire to be another supplement company. Like, it's just not what I'm here for. There's so many of them already. I wouldn't even get into it. So we figured out a way that, I think I could have added value. And a lot of the formulas that we came out with, I've been using in our clinics for years. And the company has just grown so much, man. Like I brought my mom in. My mom used to be the president of BJ's Wholesale Club. She's managed thousands of people her whole entire professional career. She worked for them for over 40 years. She's brought in now as my chief franchise officer. We just hired Will Wallace from Life Extension. He's worth his weight in gold. We've been moving the most solid staff of people to Florida to just kind of build our foundation of education. Our whole entire business is built on education.
Yeah, it's I can't say enough how incredible it is to see actual intellectuals being brought into the industry. 'Cause so often, I mean, I hate to say it, but it's so many meatheads looking for a profit,
Sure,
and to see people who actually come from a background in science. Like I went to college for dietetics. Like I just happened to find my way into supplements, and I didn't want to be in supplements. I was the same way. I'm
sure,
in supplements for all the reasons I didn't want to be, because I wanted to make an impact and
sure.
change the way things are. So, can we talk a little bit about how you got here? Like, what did you go to school for? What was
Yeah,
your
so
original
I have
passion?
my bachelor's degree is in molecular microbiology. I did that at UCF, and then I went up to Atlanta and I got my doctorate there. And then I moved back. I did my residency with it's a facility called Synergy Sports Institute, which is the facility that Andy Reid used to utilize for all his NFL players. So I was able to work with the Eagles, work with the Chiefs. I got to do a lot of really cool shit when I was doing my residency, and I fell in love with it. And I was like, this is something that the general public would totally take advantage of. And if you know Revive as an HRT clinic, you would know that we don't push hormones heavily at all. I'm very big on peptide therapy. I'm very big on, non-controlled substances and really pushing the body to do what it's naturally supposed to do first. If people come to our office and, they're borderline low T, the last thing I do is do testosterone, because long term it's just not right. And if you want that type of an HRT clinic, we'll tell you straight up, that's not for you. We're not for you. We're very science driven, research driven. So long story short, I left Atlanta and I moved to Florida, and I did my diplomat with the at the A4M, the Academy for Anti-Aging. So I did my diplomat in peptide therapy and hormone replacement therapy, stem cell therapy, all of those different things. Um, and I hired some of like the most amazing physicians to work for me. So I have a physician named he's probably one of the most world-renowned stem cell physicians in all of the world, not even the United States. His name's Dr. David Capaldi. So he teaches in Canada, Germany, all these different places for stem cell therapy. And, I have orthopedic surgeons, I have neurologists. We have pretty much a physician for every aspect of the human body, so we can actually write the proper protocols. It's not something that I just throw an MD on a bottle and say, hey, this is a doctor that works for me. It's like I wanted the best of every aspect. I wanted someone who was great with hormones. I wanted someone who was great with stem cell. I wanted someone who was amazing with neuromuscular diseases and orthopedics, and putting all those people together to come up with, some of the coolest protocols that, I think are out.
Yeah, I'll definitely say, and I hope this isn't too much to say on publicly, but coming in, I expected a certain protocol, because I should say I work with Revive for my hormone therapy, and you guys surprised me with instead of like the normal HCG, there was Kispep, and I never heard, like, none of my friends had ever heard of
Sure.
this. And into researching, I was like, how does no one else use this? It was definitely different, and it was nice. It was refreshing.
Yeah, I mean, believe it or not, so I did a YouTube video, and I did it and I did it. I don't do YouTube videos for YouTube. I do them and I host them there and I send them to our patients. So like if there's a video on, Kispeptin, for instance, that was because at that time HCG was going out, and we were using Kispeptin before HCG was illegal. And the reason being is because it's a better compound. It's a much better compound. It's more expensive, but we eat the cost of that to make the patient happy. Like long term fertility wise, LH, FSH stimulation wise, it's just a better compound. So before it was needed to be switched, we were doing it. So when it happened, everyone, who all these physicians who really weren't well, because one of the biggest issues you have with hormone replacement therapy is people get into it for the wrong reasons. And I hate to say it, but like you just said, people get into it because they want to make money. And if you don't do this right, one, you're not going to make money, and two, you're going to fuck up a lot of people. So when we came into it, my ultimate goal was to always stay ahead of the curve, always be, researching. I work very closely with one of the biggest compounding pharmacies in the country. I speak to their pharmacists all the time, all their researchers, all their PhDs. They come into my office and they train my franchisees as we open. So every month I'm getting the best, information possible. Um, And by doing so, we stay ahead of the curve. So the different peptides that are coming out, we're on the forefront of all of that, and I'm super grateful for it. And it's just one of those things where this business is it's just like any other business, man. It's very passion driven, and if you're in it for the wrong reasons, you're not going to be successful.
So did you originally see yourself, because this is, I mean, there's more than just your hormone. There's also revived MD. There's so much more to what you're doing than what we're just doing. Did you originally see yourself doing this like years
No,
ago?
absolutely not. So no, so I started doing this for my clinic, and then Matt had reached out to me. I think he had hurt his arm or something. I forget exactly. I think it was his leg. And he needed BPC and TB 500. And he's like, I don't want to buy it from a peptide site. I want to buy it from a pharmacy. So I was actually doing Neil Hill. I was working with Neil Hill because he was in Florida, and he reached out to me and said, hey, Matt is interested in working with you for some stuff. Would you be willing to help him? And I said, sure, no problem. So I got on the phone with Matt, and we just became really good friends. He would bounce some stuff off me. I'd bounce some stuff off of him. I had hired him to, give me like a diet and nutrition. And I kind of just, I got, dude, my business at the time was, I just started it and it just exploded. And I was like, bro, I'm sorry, but like, I can't commit to this. I want to, but I know I'm not gonna be able to give it 100%. So like, let's put it on the back burner. And we just kind of stayed in touch. And then one day I called him and I was like, hey man, I was like, what do you think about, starting to do some like nutraceutical health formulas mass market? Because I was selling them to my franchises already. They worked. I had blood work to prove everything. And he was like, dude, he's like, I think this is a great idea. And he was telling me how he sends all of his people to Amazon. And he's like, I can only imagine how much money I'm giving Amazon. So I was like, all right, well, let's do it. And, from the beginning, we have the same exact morals and the same exact, mission statement, I guess you could say, today as we did when we first started. And it was like, we're going to invest every penny back into this company. And, we don't take huge salaries from Revive MD. Revive MD is a very, now it's a pretty substantial company. And we still invest everything back into the company because we both have different means of income to where we don't need it. So I'm not stressing over the money from Revive MD. Matt's not stressing over it. And I think that's what made it so successful. I truly believe that, being able to sit back and make every decision based off of the betterment of the business versus financial is what's made us who we are today. And it's been an amazing ride. And, I wouldn't have traded it for anything in the world. And, I still don't plan on taking a substantial salary probably for the next year, maybe two, because I just want to continue to see the business grow at the rate it's growing.
That's awesome. That's really cool. So, and you guys, like you mentioned morals, which you guys have always done. Again, the naysayers have always said like, well, they're manufactured here, or there's this or that. It's always, I've always seen reinvestment into the back into the processes, and also stepping up at every step. You learn something, you do it better. Like, you started posting your testing analysis online. I don't know if those still are public, but
Yeah, they're up there.
you're doing that. Then you added in BSCG. It
Yeah.
seems like every step of the process, you're learning something and you're fixing things, making them even better.
Yeah, man. I think like I said in the beginning, it's just one of those things where we promised each other that we would never compromise on quality. And that's something that I stand true with everything that I do. I won't do anything unless it's right, and right morally, right, formula, like right in every sense of the word. I don't mean, with people, with products, with policy, with procedure, because you got to understand, I come from a very regulated business. I come from a business where, our actually, this is a cool story too. So all of my medical facilities are ACA certified. So we actually we hold all of the revives to the same standard as a hospital. So we have people coming in, we have people, coming in and auditing our books. We have people coming in and auditing our patient charts. Like nobody does that. Nobody pays to be scrutinized. Like I pay every year a fortune of money to ACA for them to come in and basically put me in jail if I do something wrong. And I do that because it's the right thing to do. And I know that, as my business grows and grows and grows, I'm going to have the ability to know that everyone is doing it the right way. Because as things grow and like as Revive MD grows, there's no way I'm going to be able to keep my finger on everything. But all I can do is hire the best people and the same people with the same values and morals that I have to come in and manage those parts. And I fully attribute the success to everything I've ever done in my life to my team. Cameron. Cameron is amazing, and Cameron won't let anything slip because that's just how Cameron is. And he was my right-hand man for years. And Matt's the same way with the supplement company. My mom's the same way with the franchises. My wife is the same way with the finances. It's just, we don't accept anything but exactly what it's supposed to be.
I think It seems like you've came from a very regulated industry, and it seems like that's where a lot of your knowledge is. But what I've seen in nutraceuticals is almost every mistake I've ever seen is by not trusting the people you put in place for the exact reasons that they're there
Well,
for.
yeah, I mean, and I think it's one of those things, right? Like, remember when all that shit came out about NutriCap and everyone was trashing Revive? And I said, ultimately, it's my responsibility to know what I'm giving my consumer. Granted, should I trust my manufacturer? Of course I should. But am I going to double check my manufacturer? Of course I am. Because at the end of the day, if something goes wrong, I consider that my fault because I wasn't the one making sure it was all done properly. So I don't I like Wes. I've had a great relationship with Wes. Wes has never done me dirty ever. We have, great communication. He is very good with helping us source formulas that we need, sourcing all of the patented ingredients that we use. And he pays to test our stuff because that's what I want. Granted, he doesn't pay for all of it. We pay for a substantial piece of it too, but he has great relationships with third-party testing facilities. He gets us in touch with those people. We get discounted rates for being a part of it. Like, I can't say anything bad about him, but at the same time, I would hold any manufacturer to the same standard. I don't care if Dusty Hanshaw, or not Dusty Hanshaw, I'm sorry. What's his name? Dante Trudell. If he was making my products, I would do the same thing. And it's just because I can go to sleep at night with peace of mind.
Yeah.
So that's just how I've always been. It's the same thing with my medical offices. I hire people to come in and audit my facilities strictly because I want to make sure it's done right.
Yeah, and
That's
that's
what,
just that's people seem to miss that because they want consumers want their brands to be made at like the most prestigious location. And not to say that NutriCap is not a good location, but no matter where you are manufacturing, you need to be testing it because things go wrong everywhere. I worked at NutriBrow for 4 years, and NutriBrow is known as one of the highest quality manufacturers. They're transparent on everything, and even there, every here and there, so like it's if it's not in the SOP, you learn something, you need to change it going forward. It's a
Shit happens.
scientific process. Yeah, shit
Yeah.
happens.
You know what I mean? And it's like, I'm not gonna take the brunt of, and that whole ordeal with NutriCap is just, there's so much more to that story that people don't know that it's not even worth bringing up. But it's not all it's I wouldn't necessarily say that it was 100% on NutriCap's fault, but they're just as responsible as the other parties in the issue. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
at the end of the day, I have nothing to say about them. They've always done right by me. They take care of me, and we can prove our results. We can prove it with BSCG, and now we can prove it with third-party testing, and we're about to take it a step further. So it's
Right.
going to be better.
So it brings you to newer heights, which is awesome because the BSCG brings another level of it. And I had a call with Oliver over there, and it was incredible to to learn all of the things because BSCG is not just testing. It's not just is there sildenafil in your product.
Absolutely.
There's a
Yeah.
huge another level to it, and I had no clue
It's
because
like
I'm
five.
used to like the NSFs.
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, man, I just had this conversation with we were at, like I told you yesterday, we were at a facility with some professional athletes, and I like BSCG because they play ball. And I don't mean they play ball as in like they'll do what I ask them to do. I mean they're just willing to do more for the person who's investing the fortune into their products.
Mhm.
And I wish that, and they are. I think every professional organization besides MLB takes BSCG, but NSF is obviously still, the one that everyone wants.
It was incredible listening to them because they understand compliance of labels. They understand the testing of the inbound ingredients. They understand every process of manufacturing.
We had to send all of that to them. So like when we BSCG'd our stuff, we sent all of the original COAs, we sent all the original testing, and then we sent them our label, and we had to change our labels based off of their stuff. So I mean, we got a re-audited label. We had to relabel all of our bottles, send them the new bottle label, and that's when we got our crest. So it's not like, as I don't think people understand like how long it takes, and obviously how expensive it is, but it's worth it.
Yeah, and this is something that I've discussed a lot. I know that you're friends with Dan over at Ghost, and he was someone who really helped me develop this philosophy: is that how you do anything is representative of how you do everything in this process. Because the smallest label errors show how much you care about your label, right?
Yeah,
Having little mistakes show that your entire label means nothing at some point because you don't have the knowledge to have a compliant label. Why should we trust your ingredients at that point?
correct.
And so it's to see the holistic look at the entire business from BSCG was huge. Uh,
Yeah.
it's more than just is there a drug in there? It looks at the entire process, which can be a
Yeah,
lot more.
they test quality, they test everything. And I, like I said, I really enjoyed working with them. I'm really happy that we did it, and I look forward to working with them for a really long time.
So fast forward to the now releasing this blood work. You this is just going through a facility of yours. This is going through a business that you own.
So the lab, I don't own any labs.
Oh, okay, okay.
I never ever. So the beautiful thing about all my businesses is I don't take insurance. So for me, I'm not trying to get in bed with any type of insurance, but I do have a working relationship. We're probably one of the largest accounts at the lab that we do use. So we've obviously created a very good relationship with them, and we have great pricing because of the volume that we do with them. So why not pass that on to people who are believing in me to make them healthier? And there's nothing better than doing a before and after blood work. That the proof's there. If nothing else that I do, if the BSCG doesn't tell you, if the third party testing doesn't tell you, if all the testimonials don't tell you, then this is really like, if this doesn't tell you, I don't know, you're probably, I don't know what to tell you. You know what I mean? This is it. This is the only way that you can actually take a product, order blood work, do your blood work, and then a month later you can do it twice a year for free through us. Like
Yeah,
no one does that.
yeah. I mean, it blew my mind when I saw it. I was like, no offense to you, or like there has to be some catch here. Like there's got to be something. Like what is it?
Well, Matt, it was funny because Matt was like, well, how do we make sure that they order? Because obviously, if there's a few hundred of them coming in, it's not difficult. We had 300 requests the first day we launched it. So it's like we had a lot of people coming in wanting the blood work, which I get, man, because the truth behind the matter is the way that we built my medical side of the business is by educating our people, right? So you come in, we do your blood work, you sit down with a physician and they go through it with you. When was the last time you went to your primary care physician and they actually went through your blood work with you?
Ever. And I live in New Jersey too,
They
where
They
yeah,
don't do it. I've had people leave my office crying, and crying to one of my NPs saying, I've never had a doctor do this before. This was the most, educating thing I've ever done. I don't know what an ALT is. Now you tell me what it is. Now I know what to look for on my next blood work. So some people truly have no idea what's wrong with
yeah,
them, but they just trust their doctor. Oh, you're good. Your testosterone's at 275, you're 50, you're fine. Like, no, you're not. You're not fine. You're not optimal. And there's ways to make you feel better. And
yeah.
that's our job, is to make you feel like you're 21 again, on blood work. So I want to do the same thing if I can for people who buy our supplements. Come in, we'll tell you what's wrong. And if we have a supplement that can fix it, I'll let you know what it is. And then I'll prove it worked, a couple months later.
Yeah, I
I
love
mean,
it.
the retention is there. Long-term value of a customer is going to be worth 10 times more if I can do this. So if I have to, and I'm not losing money financially, obviously. It's not like it's costing me money to do the blood work because we have these great contracts. The only thing that really is going to affect me is the manpower of people who I'm putting behind it to manage it all. But the return on investment's there long term with our customer base. So it's worth it for me.
Yeah, you're building so much with this that small cost is going to get paid over time.
Yeah, and like I said, man, like we need to do stuff that no one else is doing. We need to keep innovative, keep innovating and keep, pushing the envelope, because as people start doing what we were doing before, let's do more. Let's do more. And all that's going to do is force the whole industry to level up.
I love it. And so now you're bringing in Will Wallace to really put kind of like the cherry on top of all of this. Will was previously over at Life Extension, who like we can't talk about enough what an incredible company that is and what they've done over the years. But now coming to Revive MD, has he already been behind the scenes, or are you expecting him to launch new lines, or what is going to be what can we expect from Will?
So Will's worked for us for probably the last 6 months, as an independent contractor as he was finishing his PhD. He just didn't have time to come over full time while he was finishing his PhD. Um, but what a lot of people don't know about Will is before Will was at Life Extension, he worked with professional athletes in Tampa. So he was part of a research lab in Tampa that was testing all kinds of new products on professional athletes and doing all the data collective. He was working with people, I can't really say some of the people, but very, very, very famous people. And that's what really drew me to Will more than Life Extension, because Will's passion is in testing and formulations and making sure that, products are the best they can possibly be. So one of the cool things that he was telling me about yesterday, which is absolutely insane, is Life Extension actually leased the machine. It was like a machine that they were using in like government facilities that you could literally like search the world and get like an answer to a question within minutes. So for instance, what would take a year for researchers to find, this artificial intelligence machine would find in 15 minutes. So Life Extension was using this to formulate some of their stuff, which is crazy because they would put in like, best ways to you raise testosterone levels naturally. And then shit would pop up that like you would never think would be an answer. But this machine or this AI found it. And when you put it all together, you can see why it would work. So Will is just on a whole nother level of formulating, and we needed somebody like him to come in and one, you know, I think one of the biggest issues, and I'll be the first one to admit this, is when we first started, we wanted to be the best of the best of the best. And at that time, we were like, all right, we're going to do this many of this much of this much of this much of this. And Will was like, yo, put the fucking brakes down. Like, you're formulating this product for a fucking horse.
Mm,
Like, it doesn't need to be that much stuff. Like, you guys are kind of putting too much in because you want to be the most, but the most isn't always the best.
right.
And that's when we were like, oh shit, like we really need someone like him in here. And he's like, what's the point of having a product that no one can afford to take? If you're going to sell something for $100 and no one can afford it, it might be the best product in the world, but if you can't afford to buy it, it's not going to do anything for anybody.
Right.
So that's where we kind of step back and we're like, okay, doing the efficacious dosing, doing everything properly, but not overshooting and creating a financially, sound product was probably the biggest benefit from Will. And then honestly, just content and context, like going through the labels. He goes through all of our labels, make sure they're all compliant. And he does stuff like, we were in the car yesterday in Tampa, or the day before yesterday, and he's like, I need to move potassium on the label because this new thing just came out by the FDA and potassium needs to be in a different spot. And I'm like, oh, well, who the fuck would have known that? You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, he stays on top of the stuff. And my goal, man, and I'm sure you can kind of tell this by now, is like, we need to be a step ahead at every point in time. And by the time someone does what we're doing, we're already on to the next thing.
Yep.
And that's what we've done, and that's what I'll continue to do, and I'll continue to push that envelope as much as I can.
And it's beautiful because it's not just you're a step ahead in branding. You're not just a step ahead in finding new ingredients, but exactly that, where the potassium is in the label is important to you guys.
Yeah,
And it's
well,
something that
it's what you do in anything is what you do in everything, right? So like, if you worry about all those small details, you'll never have a big problem.
Yep.
And that's what we preach, and that's how we do it. And it's kind of fun because it's like a never ending, we're busy all day every day because we're focusing on all those tiny little things, but we've never had an issue blow up in our face because
Yeah.
we're out of it.
I can love really what you were talking about with we all love efficacious dosing and we all read the studies and we see the clinical dosages, but well, and I very frequently talk with ingredient providers about this. We have the studies on what happens when you take um, berberine on its own for your blood sugar, but we don't have we don't have studies on when you take it with banana leaf, when you take it with cinnamon, when you take it with RALA, when you take it with all these things together. You look at your glucose label. I like people ask me like what my favorite GDA is. I don't usually say like the best or like whatever because there's a lot of different great ingredients out there.
Sure.
But Revive Glucose drops my blood sugar more aggressively than anything else out there. And I think it's because you have a full dose of probably 12 different ingredients, right? So you bring in someone like Will, it's like, all right, well, these are all full clinical dosages, but a few of these are working on the same receptor, a few of these working the same pathway. We can really kind of can save you a little bit of money, which is always nice, right? And
Yeah.
you make the product work just as well while being a little more cost efficient because glucose is definitely one of the more expensive GDAs in the market. What if you can get it to more people?
Well, that's why we brought Will in. And to be totally honest with you, it's hard to do that in the bodybuilding community because the way that the bodybuilding community works is we come out with glucose, then someone's going to come out with another GDA with more and more and more and more. And then it takes someone like yourself to educate people on more isn't always better. And unfortunately, in our industry, that's pretty much like a no-no. Like, more is always better. So, like I said, our niche is not bodybuilding. I'm super grateful for the bodybuilding community, which has allowed us to, kind of put our foot on the gas in the beginning. But, we're in all different medical offices across the country now. I would say, like, everyone asks what our number one competitor is, and everyone thinks I'm going to say like Project AD, or I guess I think Dorian just came out with a health line too. And I'm so happy that it's happening. Like, I think I messaged Dorian the other day and I was like, bro, I'm so happy you're doing this. Like, it's just going to create more quality products in our space. But my biggest competitor in my head is orthomolecular. You know what I mean? So people don't get like, everyone in the bodybuilding industry is so focused on us. And they're like, oh my God, like he needs to do this or he's not going to make it here. And it's like, I don't want to. That's not my goal. My goal is not that. Your goal for me is not my goal for me. So I appreciate your concern about where I'm going with my company, but like, I got it. Like, I know what I'm doing and I'm going to take it the way I want to take it. Now, that doesn't mean we're still not going to have the most superior products in the bodybuilding space. It just means that I'm targeting, fatty liver disease, kidney disease. I want those people too.
Yeah.
And that's where
Yeah.
it is.
I think bodybuilding definitely gave you an opportunity because you have a lot of people with very messed up blood work that needed help, right? They
And
gave you some,
we proved our model.
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
but
we can fix anybody.
right, but I see this, and you see it kind of paralleled in PRT clinics, like when they can take care of more than just bodybuilders, when they can take care of, like my dad. if he can go in and be taken care of and be happy when he leaves, as well as your local gym bro that crashed his T levels, that's when things really get profitable.
Yeah, I mean, so like to give you an idea, like our TRT clinic, my best patient is like a 60-year-old male. Those are the guys that we love getting, and I would say maybe a 0.5% of the people in my clinics nationwide are like gym rat bodybuilder type people. Like that's just not our market. Like we don't market to them. The only way we market to them is through like people knowing what my other business is.
Yeah.
So 99% of my people don't even know what bodybuilding is. So we've built these formulas. Like for instance, when I first started these formulas, or when I started integrating these into my office, the way that I looked at it is, what are the top 10 reasons why people come off of TRT, right? They have elevated liver enzymes, their blood gets too thick, kidney function gets a little elevated, their lipid profile goes all fucked up, and they have to come off because of their cholesterol. So what I did is I made formulas that would make me more money long term, because my patients would stay on TRT forever.
Right.
So that's where this came from. And then as I did it, I was like, wow, like this is working. I've had people come off of blood pressure medication. I've had people come off of statins. I've had people come off of all kinds of things. And that's when I was like, damn, we're doing something really special. And then when I brought it into the bodybuilding community, like I already knew it all worked. We already knew it worked. So bringing it in that way, it's just, there's so much more clinical, like research and clinical backing behind the brand than anybody really knows about. But it's cool to see that it's starting to get known and people are starting to understand that.
Yeah, my previous doctor had me on losartan and like would not let me do anything else. I was like, I don't think on that. Like, I've been pre-hypertensive my whole life. I was 16 years old. I was pre-hypertensive.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't think it's that bad, dude. He's like, and he would give me a lot of other reasons because it helps with like the flexibility of your arterial walls and stuff like that. But I was like, I'm pretty sure we can do this like cardotone or something else. And
Yeah.
the second you guys got me blood pressure, I was like, well, first of all, I can't take this with blood pressure medication. Like I was gonna fall downstairs, but
Yeah.
it it works, right? And I feel healthier on it.
Yeah. No, and that's, man, that's the goal. The goal is to just keep proving that our products are as well as we say they are, and do what they say they do. And I think continuously doing that over and over and over again over X amount of time is just going to solidify the brand. And I think we're at that point now where people understand that, we're not here just to sell stuff. I think the blood work really solidified that
Yeah.
we're here to help. I don't care. Like I said, I don't care if you buy products from Project AD. I don't care if you buy them from anybody. We'll still do it. It doesn't cost me anything. And if I can help you and I can, guide you in the right direction, because you go on our website, there's a lot of shit on there.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of overlap, bergamot and lipid, and like people don't understand what's for what. So if we can help you, and you can sit down with one of our nurse practitioners and they can be like, hey, listen, this is what I would recommend you doing, even if it's not something that we make, even if like there's something on there that we're like, yo, you need to go see your primary care physician because this is a serious problem, I have no problem doing that. I mean, that's like
Right.
it's a disservice to not do that.
Mhm.
So that's where I see the brand going long term. And like I said, it's not about a product. It's about building something so much bigger than a product. It's about building a community. It's about being a authoritative, I guess you could say, authoritative company in the space. Like people respect what we're doing. People respect that we're reinvesting in the company. People respect we're bringing on PhDs. And I have someone who ran a Fortune 500 company part of this business. It's just, I'm treating this like it's a real company. This isn't, I mean, it's funny because I use this guy named Nino to do our Amazon. He runs our Amazon and he does a lot of the brands in the industry. And I'm on Nino's ass like every month. And I'm like, hey, like, the payments are coming in late, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, dude, you're the only company that runs your business like a real company. He's like, everyone else just like, they don't do P&L. So they don't care when the money comes in and it doesn't balance. And I'm like, well, that's not me. Like,
Yep.
I do things to the T meticulously because I have other businesses and I need to make like Revive MD is, like I said, I make barely any money from Revive MD, but it takes almost all of my time right now. And I'm
Right.
doing that because I know 5 years from now, it'll probably be my main stream of income. So I'm investing now, planting the seed for later. And I did the same thing with my HRT company. With my HRT company, I didn't take a salary for 3 years or 2 years, and I still don't take a salary from my franchise company. You know what I mean? That money just goes right back into marketing. That 6% royalty from all my offices, I'm doing brand awareness campaigns. I'm hiring people like Will to be the chief, compliance officer for the DEA. Like that's what I'm doing because I know long term it's going to pay off.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
So that pretty much brings us up to president. What is there anything you can give us on what we can expect 2021? Because you got Will now, you got the blood test, like you got all this stuff. Like said you're coming out swinging. What's the next move?
So with Revive, we did launch the telemedicine site, which you did start doing some of that stuff, which obviously is a sister company, but that's something that I've wanted to do for a really long time, and it's taken quite some time to do it the right way. You know, hiring the nurse practitioners in all the different states, and getting the compliance from like Shopify allowing me to do it. Having to provide all that documentation. So that was our first big leap into again starting something totally new. In essence, in any space, that's I think the first like pharmaceutical peptide site that's been out.
Yeah, it's the only one I've seen, and just to say from using it, it's incredible.
Yeah,
Like just receiving it, it comes from the same compounding pharmacy as I was receiving from before. But we've all kind of messed around with peptides before,
sure,
and it's funny when I called you about it, it was a bit of a vendetta on my own because a year ago I did this big call out video on everyone that pushes not for human consumption products,
sure.
which is like the most backwards asinine thing in this industry. After the last 5 years, we've had transparency, non-proprietary, like CGMP, like all this huge focus on
Mhm.
quality, and then we still have these people like, all right, but in this sector,
It's
we're
fine.
allowed to take stuff that, yeah, and I'm like, you have no clue what you're taking, and if you have a stroke, you try to sue them, you weren't supposed to be taking it anyway.
Yeah, so the funny thing about that is when I first started it, the big thing I had an issue with was I was like, how people are going to have a hard time paying 3 or 4 times the amount for this. It's going to be difficult. So when I got into it, I asked my compounding pharmacy, I'm like, guys, what is the difference? Like, I need to be able to voice the difference between these things. And he's like, well, one, where it's sourced, two, metal toxicities, three, purity and potency. And he's like, all of those research things fail one of those. They failed one of those, or they come from a place that you're not allowed to purchase from as a compounding pharmacy or an FDA facility. So I was like, all right, so once you get past the hurdle of paying a little bit more for the product, um, it's worth its weight in gold. And we haven't had an issue. I put the videos on there to try to explain to people like what the difference is, but I think now we've solidified ourselves as being on the up and up when it comes to everything that we put our name on, and people are paying and they don't have a problem paying.
I mean, it's insane. I've always heard about like for specifically, I saw the B vitamins. So I was like, I want to try that because I've always heard like these shots are just incredible. And
Yeah, the B shots are great. The glutathione is amazing. All the different cool peptides, like you actually feel a difference. Like that IGF-1, CJC, ipamorelin. I mean, I've seen IGF-1 levels go as high as being on Real Growth with that peptide.
yeah,
So it's they work. That's the beauty of this. Like I'm not selling bullshit. I'm selling something that I know is going to work. So it's just getting the customer in the first time, the same way I did with Revive, and getting them to our returning customer rate is through the roof.
yeah, I ran the IPAM, the CGC IGF IPAM for a good 4 weeks a couple months ago for
Yeah.
the clinic, and I had people walking over to the gym like, "What's going on?" You're like, it's just like this rounder, fuller effect. I'm like, I don't know, dude. It's peptides. My doctor told me to trust them, and
Yeah.
and because like when you say like peptides, everyone's like, that shit's bullshit, because it was failing one of those tests. You're
Sure.
getting it from extreme bombs, peptides, like whatever it is, some like crazy site online. You
Sure.
pay $20 for IGF. Like I would joke about it. I'd be like, listen, like if you watch like one Rich Piana video on IGF, you'll understand you're not getting it for $20 online.
No, absolutely not. Real IGF-1, like Increlex and things like that, you can't like I can't even get that as a compounding. Like I can't medically get that accessible to myself.
Yeah,
Nor would I because I'm not a dwarf baby or something. You know what I mean? Like it's
yeah,
not realistic. But I mean, real IGF on that level is thousands of dollars.
right. But you think that some sketchy Chinese site online has
Yeah,
it for you at an affordable
absolutely.
rate.
No. Yeah,
So
man.
that's
So, yeah, so this year we're really focusing on for like the actual supplement company. We're coming out with a lot of cool new formulas. This month I'm really excited, or I guess it might be next month, is the kids gummy.
yeah,
um, I'm
huge.
really excited for that. A lot of people have asked for it. I didn't realize how many bodybuilders had kids. So and I've been eating them, like they're good. These fucking vitamins are delicious. uh, so I've been testing them. Matt's kids love them. We're really excited. They're pectin based again, like
Cool.
no bullshit, no fillers. We used real sugar in this, so we didn't use artificial sweeteners. Kids don't really need artificial sweeteners. Um, and then just going and we have that coming out. We have an amazing GI, a gut health formula coming out. It's a powder. I guess you could say it's. I love endorphin. Like
Yeah,
I've
well,
used.
so I was gonna joke about that because I saw Nick is taking someone else's GI product, so I was like, that's got to be a pointer where you're going.
Yeah, so Endorphin is something that I firmly believe in. Matt firmly believes in it. It's a great product. There's a couple things we like to do a little bit differently. So we're going to come out with a GI Plus, which is going to be awesome. We have a fiber product coming out. We have a nootropic coming out. We have a collab. I guess I can talk about it. No one knows this. This is the first time anyone's going to know about it. We're doing a T booster collab with Chris Bumstead.
Cool. Huge.
A
Nice.
really good T booster that Will's gonna. He's taking his time to formulate properly.
Right.
Um, we got a lot of cool stuff coming out, man. Raw and Revive this year, we're really putting the hammer down. We have a lot. We have everything is strategically done. Like I said, I moved our whole marketing team to Florida this year. So I moved Scott from Texas. I got Facebook ads people in house. We have Will Wallace here, or I'm sorry, Will Whitman here. We have a pretty solid crew. So I think this year is the year of just epic amounts of content and just good quality stuff.
Just seeing the organization for me, I was like, all right, like, because I mean, you wanted to prove to us that you were doing something huge this year. The
Yeah.
fact that you had like your next 12 months planned out, I don't hear that from nutraceutical companies.
Yeah, man, like I said, like I treat it like any other business, and my time is very limited. So when I do have time to do things, I really just, I expect everything to be executed properly. And I think that's been one of the best parts about coming into this industry. And I hate to say it like this, but you're coming into an industry where business isn't really anyone's strong suit.
Right.
There's a few people that I really think do a great job. Dan does an awesome job. Katie and Kaden do a great job, and Max. Um, those are the brands that I can look at and be like, wow. And then I hear horror stories from other brands, and it's like they don't even have an office, or everyone does remote, and there's no culture. And I've learned in anything that I do that culture of your people is a make or break. If people
Right.
don't believe in what they're doing and why they're doing it, you could pay them half the amount as long as the culture's there. And I pay my people really well, but it's true. If they feel like they're a part of something bigger than themselves, they're gonna love it, and they're gonna put all of themselves into it. And if you don't have that, I mean, it's an absolute fucking recipe for disaster.
Yeah, and it seems like you guys really, I mean, you document that well through your content too.
Dude, my whole entire thing is people. I truly, I mean, my mom taught me this from a very young age. Like, everyone's business, like your business is people, my business is people, any business is people. It's your consumer, and what you need to do is understand that your job is to make that person happy, and your job is to do something and solve a problem that they have. So as long as I take care of my people, I know they're going to take care of my consumers, and that's really what it comes down to.
Yeah, and you see it across the entire line because you see, like, I see the way you take care of people with with your products, but I
Yep,
also see like the way that you had your Revive jerseys, like, and your whole team's wearing. I'm like, I want to be part of that. You got
yep,
like everything's branded. It's a culture. It's
yep.
it's a feeling that you want to be a part of.
I mean, I really wanted to do these huge events where we had all of our ambassadors come down, and but COVID really fucked us. Like,
Yeah.
so for instance, like we have all my athletes, my big name athletes like Stipe, Thor, Chris. We have in their contracts that they have to do like one or two events a year, right? Like, in as part of their salary. And one of the things that I was really excited for is I was going to actually take all my ambassadors, bring them down, and actually use all of them as their event to come and just hang out with our ambassadors. So I
Cool.
wasn't going to use them for an expo or use them for, I wanted to use them to understand that like they're part of something so much bigger than themselves.
Yeah.
And have like this cool thing where, we shot guns and we had them all come down and we did all kinds of cool stuff. But unfortunately, it wasn't able to happen last year. So this year I plan on doing it. But that's the type of business this is, man. And this is the type of company that I want. I just want a humongous family-based culture. And to be totally honest with you, no one has done that better, in my opinion, than First One.
Yeah.
You know, as far on a marketing standpoint, they did a phenomenal job there. And I think that if anyone wants to, look up to a company on culture and feeling like they're a part of something bigger than themselves, I think First One is the company to look at.
Yeah. But it's funny because you look at these brands that do it, but they do things better than anyone else. The First Form, Hayden, Katie, Dan, all these groups, like even yourself, you guys get looked at as if you came in with a silver spoon in your mouth or something, but you guys just came in with a plan.
Yep.
Whereas most companies just come in like, we're going to make products and we're just going to sell them on Facebook ads.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah. I mean, we came in an industry where people literally thought we would never be able to do anything, and we did it. And it's just now it's any excuse you can throw at it. Oh, Dom had a ton of money before that. Oh, Matt did this, or I don't care. I mean, you can say whatever the fuck you want to say about us, but we came in an industry where no one gave a shit about health, and I have thousands of kidney bottles flying off our shelf monthly now. So,
Yeah.
how can you hate on somebody who's bringing awareness to being healthy in an industry that needs it?
And not only that, I mean, you're bringing health to the interest in this industry, but you're also elevating yourself above the industry as well, right?
Sure.
And that's something that we see, like Katie and Katie are in Target now,
Yep,
right? That's huge.
yep.
First Form
And
has
they're
transcended.
the number 2 energy drink in Target. They just beat Monster.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, just being able to see that, because most brands are just looking to top the shelves at brick and mortars locally, you know,
Well,
and
that's the problem, man. I think like Katie and Hayden had a vision, and I talk to Hayden almost every day, and it's like people don't understand our vision or their vision or Dan's vision because they're so focused on, and I hate to say it, but like small things. Like my thing is not to be in every brick and mortar. My thing is to be in Whole Foods, you know? So like we're just not on the same wavelength when it comes to things, and people judge what we're doing based off of what they think we should be doing, and that's fine. But I'm not doing that. You know, like my goal is so much bigger and I have such a different vision for Revive that, you know, it doesn't stop at being in you know, brick and mortar stores.
right.
You know, I don't see that as being successful to me. Granted, we ran a crazy cool campaign this year for brick and mortar locations to bring us in. You know, we even rebranded our bottles specifically for shelf so people can
Right.
see it and it catches your eyes. Um, but you know, like I said, that's the start of very we didn't do any distribution until January of this year. We built our whole brand on direct to consumer. So when we brought Frank in January, that was like our first real push towards brick and mortar and, you know, I guess you could say wholesale,
Mhm.
and we've done unreal in the first month of the year. You know, so now the goal is to build our distribution bigger than our direct to consumer, and doing it backwards really helped us because it didn't
Yes.
give the stores a chance. Like they are being asked daily, like, oh, do you guys have Revive, do you guys have Revive? They need to bring us in now.
Yeah, you create that demand for them.
Yeah, I mean Redcon did a great job with that too.
Yeah, and it's funny because we saw this in other brand. And I hate to keep bringing someone else up, but like it translates to this. When Ghost stayed out of all brick and mortar and just went GNC, constantly we had these brick and mortar stores saying that they were doing it wrong. And it's
Mhm.
funny because there's like this like status quo, like dogmatic idea, like you have to, because in the early 2000s, it was always all about brick and mortar. You had
Yep,
20 outside sales reps that were always selling, and
yep,
to do direct to consumer was wrong.
yep,
It wasn't, you know, remember Blackstone had their MSRPs on their site like $20 above what MAP in their stores were.
yep.
And guys like you who are like they have their own vision, they have their own idea. It's never going to work like that. You're never going to be sticking that status quo. It's beautiful. I mean, like I love a lot of brick and mortars out there, but the guys who can't respect someone who's doing something different, I can't imagine that thought process.
Yeah, I mean, like I think I told you on the call, like this year we're gonna do a lot of cool stuff. Where we're gonna release things to brick and mortars a month before we release it to the public. So we're gonna do a lot for brick and mortar, but we also have to understand that if we didn't build that like cult like following before we did it, like no one's gonna go into the store and buy it.
Yep.
You know, so like now we have different ambassador programs where we're actually encouraging people to go into store and purchase to our brick and mortars, and if they do show us like a receipt or like a picture in the store purchasing, then we're going to give them a percentage off their next order online. So we're encouraging our people to support small business along the way. It's just in order for us to be so successful at that, we had to build a presence before we did it, and it's worked really really well for us.
Awesome. Well, so we're running on an hour here. I wanted to give you a chance if there's anything else you wanted to get out. I think we covered a lot of ground here
Yeah,
from start to present. I'm super excited about everything that's coming out. Is
sure.
there anything else coming out soon that you wanted to drop here, or is that pretty much it?
I can speak on something. We are working with a professional, like a ton of professional athletes. One of the guys is a super super successful strength and conditioning coach. His name's Yo Murphy. We're working on collaborating with him, and you know he has Randy Moss as his receiving coach there. Derek Jeter's a baseball coach there. So we have a lot of huge athletes that I've been blessed to be in touch with, and this is because of Will. Will Wallace actually worked with them doing research in Tampa before he went over to Life Extension. So this is something that again is definitely going to elevate our brand as a whole to a whole new level. And I'm really excited to talk about it, but I can't really speak too much more than that. But it is happening. It's going to be soon, and it's going to be really really special.
I really wasn't sure if you were going to bring it up, so I'm happy you did.
Yeah.
And I won't push you any more on it, but I'm so excited to see a brand stepping into like not to downplay bodybuilding, but like real athletics,
Yeah. Well, that
like
was a tough topic for me because when I was there, they're like, "Well, have you ever worked with athletes before?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah. I mean, obviously we have Stipe and Thor, but it's like what we were able to do, and I hate to say it because like it's not right because I do consider bodybuilders professional athletes, but it's a different level of athleticism, right?
yeah,
Like these guys are on a whole new level. And I'm in there and I'm like sitting in like the front office and I'm thinking about like the millions of followers that all these people have in this building. And I basically said it to Yo, I'm like, bro, you're literally sitting on like a, for lack of a better word, like a gold mine puzzle. And like it's just not put together yet. Like you have all the pieces you need to make this one of the most successful things ever, but you just haven't put it together. And he's like, Yo has maybe like like I don't know, 1,000 followers on social media, but every other picture is with like, the kid who won the Heisman. I mean, he was there, like training, and I'm
Yeah.
like, he doesn't care. He's just his, and that's why I like them so much. It's because they don't care about the
Yes.
fame. They don't care about being on social media. Like even Brandon G, like that's his partner in it. Like they're both ex-professional athletes. They're both, super plugged in with every pro basically that's good in the United States. But they're the most humble people in the world. And they're like, listen, like we just want to create some dope ass products, and we're tired of doing these partnerships with people, and they just go south because they want money and we want quality.
Yeah.
So them coming together, and this isn't like a contracted deal. This is going to be a full blown partnership. So this is long term. This isn't a year. This is for life.
Cool.
Yeah.
You think that their like lack of care for the spotlight is because I mean it's a location where they're working on their health and it's kind of like a haven away from all of that.
Yeah. I think it has a lot to do with two things. I think one, I think that in order for professional athletes to truly do their job, I think they need the least amount of distractions as possible. And I think that for Yo, I consider Yo one of probably he's has to be one of the best strength and conditioning or just coaches in probably the world. And I think to him, his value is in a whole different place. Like he doesn't have time to care about anything else because his job is strictly taking care of these people.
Right.
And he doesn't post about it because he doesn't want people to think that that's why he's doing it, because that's not why he's doing it. His passion is strictly to help people. And whether he has a million followers or one follower, he's going to do it the same way.
Right. I think there's definitely something to be said. It's hard to put this into words, but like bodybuilders, like they train, they train, they train. Their whole life is training.
Yep.
And they don't realize it took me a long time to realize this because in powerlifting, all of my peers are strength and conditioning coaches. And that training aspect for real athletes, and I really don't mean that in a derogatory way, but for real athletes, that strength aspect, and even the conditioning aspect, is general physical preparedness, which is 5% of what they actually do. They go out in a field and play a game with tactics and strategy. There's nothing to do with weight room.
Yeah, and one of the things that me and Matt always talk about, because I came from a sports background, Matt came from a sports background, and it's like how you can tell a bodybuilder didn't come from a sports background is how they lose.
Hmm.
And I say that with like the utmost respect because there's so much more in an athletic sport like football or baseball when it's not just about yourself. Like you're not only relying on you, but you're relying on your whole team to do it. And in order for that to happen, there's strategy, like you said. There's so many other components of it, and it's a whole different level. Bodybuilding is great because you can control every variable. Like there's
Yes.
nobody to blame but you.
Yeah.
When it comes to a team sport, not only do you have to rely on other people, but if those other people don't perform, you have to adapt and figure out a way to overcome and win still. And
Mhm.
that's where, you see it's just a totally different kind of training. And
Awesome.
it's cool to watch.
Well, I can't wait to see how you support these people and how you get involved with it because I mean, we've seen Gatorade do it. We've seen Powerade. Everyone has their own, that supplement in that area, but none
Yeah.
of it's really done its job. So super excited to see how that works and how those connections might interlock
Yeah, well,
with
I
those
mean, it's
people as
our
well.
shot, right? Like when one of the things they said was that I think they were with Dymatize, or they had a contract with, I think it was Dymatize.
Dymatize does a lot of high level protein studies, so that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it was Dymatize, and the one thing that they said was it just wasn't innovative, right? Like it wasn't something that was coming to the market and changing the game. And Yo wants products that are going to make his athletes better,
Yeah.
and he has the ability to test all this stuff. So we can do all that. We can do all the testing. We can have Will manage all that, and that's something that's really
Cool.
exciting. But this was like for me, I feel like this was like the one shot that I have to do something like really bigger than anything that I ever thought I could have done. So I'm doing it. Like, and the way that we're coming out with these products and the way we're marketing it is just so different. And I know that sounds like cliche because it's a supplement, but when you see it all come out and you see like the purpose and how we're gonna like tell a story about each product, no one has done it this way yet, and it's
Yeah.
gonna be really special.
I'll tell you, I get pitched like new brands almost on a daily basis. I get calls every single day.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's merit based. And if there are certain people out there that when they tell me like, "Hey, I'm actually doing something different," I'm like, I'll give this guy the time of day. And you guys have proved in the last couple of years that like you know what different is, which is
Yeah,
important. The
yeah,
actual cognizance of what hasn't been done before and what is going to actually
sure,
be interesting. So,
yeah.
uh, any kind of time frame on that? You have an idea?
One thing I did say in the meeting was that, to make this right, it's going to take time, but I'm going to document the whole process. So you'll see like testing it. We'll document the whole thing, like manufacturing, touring the facility. Because remember, this is going to be an NSF brand.
Right.
So we have to find a new facility that's NSF certified to do these few products that we're going to be doing. But you'll be able to you'll see it from start to finish.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to get this up for everyone to listen to because this is, I mean, this hour has just been packed. I think that's probably the most packed, like 60 minutes of podcast I've done.
Cool.
So thank you so much for joining today. I think everyone knows ReviveMD is all over. Where can they find you on social media? Because you actually have a pretty engaged social.
Yeah. So I don't post about like once every 2 weeks, but it's D Iacovone, so D_IACOVONE, and that's kind of where I post most of my stuff. But yeah, I really don't do much. So if you're looking for a ton of content, it's probably not not
Your
me.
stories are great though.
Yeah, I
Like
do a ton of stories.
the stories, you stranded on the side of the road in your Ferrari, or was it, what was it? That was, I mean, that was priceless.
It was the worst. It was honestly like it got comical halfway through it, but it was pretty brutal.
I could see you were laughing at yourself eventually.
Yeah,
Like it finally came to it.
yeah. It was just terrible, and it wasn't my fault, mind you. It said I had 2 miles, so and it just turned off.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Tom. We're gonna end it here, and I'm sure we'll have you back on soon.
All right, man. Thanks for your time.